Hello and welcome back to the Villa podcast. As you can see, a bit more of a professional setup today. Dan is still away, but nevertheless, guys, there's been so much to talk about. I know I wasn't sure if I was going to preview Bolton, but I thought we may as well hop on and talk about it briefly, just because of the developments that have happened with the ISMALIA SARR transfer saga. I think it's fair to say he's not coming, and ultimately, if the deal isn't right for the club, then the way we've left this deal, essentially, the way we've left it on the table and we've walked away from it, is something that you have to commend the club for doing. However, it's incredibly frustrating. After it almost seems we don't really hear about transfers, do we, until the very last second, which obviously makes what Dan and I do very awkward. I woke up this morning fully prepared to record an announcement, like for when the news dropped. And we're obviously greeted with the news that personal terms can't be agreed. Now, it's since come out, only about 5 minutes since I've come on to record. Tommy Jordan, head of communications and media at Aston Villa, has tweeted saying that there was never a medical booked, which is kind of contrary to what the likes of Percy and Fabrizio and a few other of the journalists who broke this story have said, which has confused me slightly. I think it's clear, Tommy's job is communications, and he can clearly see that the fans are not happy with how this has gone on. And I guess this is the club's way of saving face without having to make an official statement. Do I believe? I mean, obviously, I'm not in the know. I don't really know how any of these things have gone down. But do I believe that there was never a medical? No. This just seems like it's damage limitations. It's PR 101. Just deny, and hope that it goes away, because we don't. Obviously, it's not really a good look if players are walking away from negotiations. From an outside view, obviously, if you're looking at it through a claret and blue tinted lens, then you can see that clearly what SARR wanted was more than we were willing to give. And I don't ever really want the club to budge on that unless we're breaking the bank for like a Messi or do you know what I mean? Like for ISMALIA SARR, it seems redundant to be offering him ridiculous wages. Certainly if the club don't feel that as well. There was also the talk of Gerrard not actually signing off on this transfer and Gerrard being the one to pull the plug on it, despite this being a Langer signing. And it makes sense because Langer was actually at Vicarage Road the other night watching Watford, which confused a lot of people because I know obviously Keenan's kind of gone there on loan. So it seemed strange for him to maybe be there like retrospectively after the deal. But it seems like he could have been there for SARR. And it's not happening right now, which is, I don't know how I feel about it, to be honest, guys, because, as I kind of mentioned in the transfer rumour mill, it's not one I've got too excited about just yet, because mainly due to the fact that I don't think signing an attacker solves any of Villa's problems. However, I've had to think about it, and I posted a thread on Twitter, just kind of sharing my 2 cents on Steven Gerrard and just the absolute mess that the club's in right now. And I can't help but feel like Villa, or the club at least, were making moves that supersede Gerrard, because I think it's fair to say the fan base haven't been this unified in a single decision in the longest time. I think the majority of Villa fans do want Steven Gerrard out. And I look at Neil Critchley and the system that he played at Blackpool. At times it was a 5-back, but generally there was 4-2-3-1, 4-3-3, heavy emphasis on traditional wingers pressing relentlessly. And then you look at ISMALIA SARR in that light, and the deal almost starts to make a bit more sense than it maybe did, because I think a lot of people, even myself included in the transfer rumour mill, have gone, well, Gerrard doesn't play wingers, this, that. I think there's some credence to this. I do think that there's going to be 1 or 2 wingers coming in. Bertie's obviously departed this morning as well, officially, finally. And I do think that should the plug be pulled on Steven Gerrard, Neil Critchley is going to take that mantle. He was a manager before, and he's come in obviously to be an assistant and to be the brains of the operation. And I have the feeling that maybe had things have gone sour with Gerrard early doors as well, that this may have happened with Michael Beale. But early on, there had been an emphasis on the assistants being the brains of the operation. And we all kind of knew from the get-go that regardless of what Steven Gerrard seemed to have achieved up at Glasgow Rangers, that he was always the face of an operation, and it was almost a vanity signing. It's like when we signed John Terry in the Championship. Sure, he was great and he had his moments in a Villa shirt, but ultimately it was a signing that would get the fans on board because it's a big name, and would look good for the rest of the world and world football. And we've seen the benefits of having Gerrard as the gaffer. Bringing in Coutinho. Buba's referenced how important he was to sign in. Diego too. And almost everyone else that have come in have said that they really wanted to work with Stevie. If you have a Beale or a Critchley in charge, it may be a bit harder to get them higher profile signings in. So I do understand it, but I do think that the club is starting to see through the Christian Perso vanity project that was appointing Steven Gerrard as manager, and the link to Sarr and the interest and the initial engagement that we had that has now seemingly fallen apart, to me at least, could point towards Neil Critchley potentially taking the reins. I'd like to know what you guys have to think about that. You don't see many managers leave for assistant jobs. I understand it's the Premier League and Blackpool in the Championship. And of course, people want to work at the highest level. But when you're a manager and, you're potentially only 2 or 3 good seasons away from managing in the Premier League, if you're Neil Critchley in any case, whether that be with Blackpool or another job that he gets and could earn promotion. It almost seems too good to be true. Tell me if, tinfoil hat conspiracy guys, let me know what you think. But I'm starting to think the House of Cards is about to collapse. And there aren't many people out there at the moment that I think would feasibly come. I don't want to hear any Mauricio Pochettino suggestions, guys. There is no way that guy's coming. Plus, as well, I'm sure he's owed like a 15 million payout from Tottenham if he doesn't take an English job for the next couple of years. I could be incorrect in that, but I remember reading that somewhere at the time. So it's just a mess, honestly. Villa, way to ruin the weekend, man. But here we are. No done deal announcement, just a transfer update and a little Bolton talk. Really excited to be going. Love going to Bolton. Last time I was there. I think it was 8 in a row, maybe, at the time. Macron Stadium. So I thought, for you guys watching, you'll be able to see I'm wearing a Macron shirt. I think it's actually the University of Bolton Stadium now. It's one of them ones I'll always remember. It's the Macron. Tuesday night, Carabao Cup action. You couldn't ask for a better game for Stevie to buy himself a bit more time, could you, than Bolton? League One Bolton Wanderers. No disrespect to Bolton at all. I think they've only won 2 league games so far this season against Wickham and earlier on in the season. They beat Salford in the first round of the Cup 5-1 with 10 men. I can't claim to have watched too much of Bolton, so I'm not too sure what we're going to get ourselves in for. So this is going to mainly be tailored around my expectations from the game, how I think we should line up. And hopefully Villa can get a win here in advance, because the season started horribly. You have to get wins somewhere to build up confidence and just morale. I know we have got the result against Everton, which is great, but I think that the club is stinking at the moment, and the fans didn't even go. The players, didn't even go over to the fans after full time against Crystal Palace, which is very disappointing. John McGinn as well, who's the new captain, didn't even go and clap the fans. That is disgraceful. So hopefully, regardless of the outcome, we get a bit of a clap at Bolton. But looking at this game, hopefully we see some Ludwig. I think Luca Dean was shocking against Palace. He really was. And if you are going to really command authority from these players, which I think Gerrard may have struggled a bit, because I think the players just clearly aren't either receiving the instructions or acting on the instructions, or aren't even getting good instructions, I think it's fair to say. Villa's problem right now is we have an okay 11, but the squad depth isn't there. And that's no disrespect to Ludwig. And I really hope he comes in and has a fantastic performance and gives Stevie and Luca Dean something to, really think about. Of course, it will be against Bolton Wanderers, and there's no disrespect to Bolton, but playing him in this game, it makes sense. Get him some minutes in so we can ensure that he's going to be ready to step in if he ever needs to. I think looking at the defence as well, we've still got Courtney, so it'll be interesting to see if we kind of play him and are positioning him in the shop window. I know Watford are keen to take him in on loan. That still hasn't been resolved. I think that will kind of happen when the centre-back replacement eventually comes in for Villa, whether that be Bednarek or whoever else it may be. So it'd be interesting. I hope we see Chambers play. personally, because I'm a big Callum Chambers fan here. And looking at the rest of the squad, had we have kept Kane Kesler-Hayden, this would have been the ideal game for him. But I don't think we'll see Freddie Gilbert because he's not really been any of the squad. So I can imagine Matty Cash may be playing this game. And the midfield is where I think we're going to see the bigger changes, or at least I'm hoping. We've not really seen that much of Dougie. He came on the other day, 100% pass accuracy. He only had played for 20 minutes, of course. I believe it was 25 accurate passes out of 25, which is what we want to see. Dougie came on and is an option that I think we haven't been using enough this season. So hopefully we see Dougie, but I can imagine it may be a midfield that consists of Tim and Marv. I think we need to see 4-2-3-1. Get ready, get that double pivot in. I wouldn't be against playing Boober in this game, but I think as a DM, you don't want to be playing John McGinn. We've seen John McGinn playing in a double pivot, and it's not ideal. Douglas Luiz, Tim, or Marv to accompany Boober would be something that I'd be more than happy to see. And I think, looking at the rest of the side, JJ, does he play? That's a possibility. Hopefully Cam Archer plays. Again, there's been all this talk of him now potentially going out on loan if Sarr or another attacker was to come in, which is interesting in itself because Stevie seemed to have made his mind up about wanting to keep Cam, and it's a shame. If you loan him to another EFL club, he's potentially got another 3 games under his belt. I think they're about 5 or 6 games in the EFL, aren't they? Whereas we're only coming up on our 4th with a cup game. So frustrating for Cam, but hopefully if he can come on, prove that he is worthy of at least staying, maybe even pushing for a start, you don't know. But I think everything that we've seen from Cameron Archer leading up to this point suggests that he is owed a start in the Carabao Cup. And it'll be interesting to see what we do. I think Ghazi is someone who's still around. He's played some under 23s and the 19s games, hasn't he? But it'll be interesting to see what happens with him, especially playing a 4-2-3-1. Again, it's a position and a system that he's more familiar with, that we played under Dean at times. So it'd be interesting to see what happens there. I'd like to think that Buendia starts, but maybe Coutinho does, because obviously Buendia got the nod ahead of Phil against Palace. But I don't know. I don't think we can really complain too much about how we line up. I think as long as we see like Cam, I'd love to see Tim as well. Sanson would be great, but it seems like I'm being completely unreasonable to asking to see Morgan Sanson play these days. Whatever happens, I just hope that we can get a win it fairly convincingly, because otherwise I'm very worried considering it's Bolton. Again, no disrespect intended at all to the Wanderers fans. Villa need to win this game, put a few things right, hopefully get some good faith. I think that's at least what Gerard will be hoping for from the fan base. Whether that happens is something I highly doubt, but Bolton's a game that Villa should be winning, and hopefully we can see ourselves go on a bit of a cup run. That'd be lovely. So yeah, if you guys enjoyed this podcast, let us know by hitting a like, comment your thoughts below, and subscribe for more. If you're listening on Apple and Spotify, make sure you give us a 5-star rating, as that really helps. Up the Villa.